Okay. All right. So tonight I'm going to talk about some core basics in science of mind principles, which they're very similar in nature, obviously, to the unity principles and practices. And I leveraged the talk, elements of the talk that the CSL community, they publish weekly talk themes and PowerPoints for the ministers, which is very helpful. So I just want to give that an acknowledgement. And then of course I add things to that. So I agreed with the talk, and therefore that's why I adopted it, that at the beginning of the year, even though every day is a new day, you know, and it's nice to look at it that way, at the beginning of the year, holistically, society tends to take a refreshed look at their lives and set goals and things like that. So the theme is to pause and reflect and rejuvenate a little bit. So I thought that was good. So before we get started, if I may just set the stage here with a little invocation. So I invite each of you, if you so choose, to close your eyes and just focus on your breathing for a few moments and feel as you breathe in and breathe out, just feel yourself relaxing and centering and being. And I know that this evening is just perfect, exactly as it is intended to be, and that God expresses through each of us as we share, reflect, and even do a little contemplation on things in our lives. And we are so thankful for this ability to get together periodically and talk about the love of spirit, the love of each other, and just the love of the world, and the divine nature of all things. And the divine nature of all things permeates through each one of us this evening, in this moment, right here, right now. And we are all so grateful for this opportunity. And together we say, and so it is. So it is. Yeah, very nice. So, you know, I kind of already did set the stage for what the topic is this evening. They had this theme about root, ROOT, and reboot, you know, like reboot. Yeah, root and reboot, which, you know, that's really quite catchy. So again, at the beginning of the year, you know, to root yourself in the knowing of who you are, you know, remembering who we are, and then rebooting yourself with the knowing of that energy. You know, obviously, this is how I'm interpreting this root and reboot theme. Others may say it differently, but then, you know, again, rooting yourself in the knowing of who we are, and then recharging yourself and rebooting yourself with your ability to envision and manifest and set intentions for the direction where you want to be, if you so choose to want to change. And then in the whole process of all of that, the knowing that, and the honest believing that, you know, we are never alone. And so that is the essence of the theme, and the three big things that I'd like to share and discuss with you. And then as at the end of this talk, then if you also choose, I mean, we can change this if you're not up to it, but my thinking is that we could do, you know, some reflection, silent reflection and meditation on some questions that I have. So the three big points of this discussion The first one starts with, again, knowing the truth of who you are. And I don't know, Joanne, if you remember how Reverend Edie Skalinsky, the minister at the Unity Church there in Bentonville, how she would continue to remind us and encourage that we would remember who we are, right? And I remember the first time I heard her say that, and how my takeaway from her particular talk was, every morning before you go outside, look at yourself in the mirror and say, I remember who I am. Right. That is just very, very profound for me. We are really, little godlings in nature, and the qualities of God are in us. And I find it helpful for me to remind myself about that, because I'm also human and I don't always remember. But to think and honestly believe in yourself that you do have these God qualities, and they can be as profound as you choose, as strong as you so choose, in line with really the depth of your belief. But one of them could be like to think and believe in abundance, that we truly are prosperous and that whatever we need is always there. That is one that I work on with myself really repeatedly. And, I'm not a millionaire. I don't have millions and millions of dollars, but I tell you, it's amazing to me, even when I don't have income come in, sometimes, that knowing that what I need is always there when I need it, it's incredible to me. It always occurs. There is not limitation, there is abundance. So another God quality I just would like to briefly pause on and remind ourselves about is to think and believe in perfect health. And like Reverend Lynn, how you remind us in the wholeness of our mind, our body, and our spirit, the knowing of that wholeness. That's not to say that we won't have a few little challenges in our physical body, knowing though that the true state of who we are and what we are is perfect health, not illness or continuous disease. That provides a lot of strength, It also for in my family, Alzheimer's runs in my family, and I have a member of my family who's so focused on that and worried on it, and we hear it, we talk about it, we study it, and I really strive for myself. He doesn't have the same kind of belief system I do. I strive for myself to know a matter of perfection in me and the rest of my siblings in my family. I don't want to focus on Alzheimer's and then create that as a definitive thing in what transpires. Aw, hi there, little sweetie. So another thing I only have two more here and then we'll continue on. But another God quality I love to just reflect on and think and believe about is love and beauty. Just recognizing that that's there, that is there. And, and seeing that in the world and seeing that in others, people, you can say that that's seeing the divine nature in others, but to remember the love and beauty and to come forward and express that as you interact with others, not hate or fear in the case, but love, right? And I remember how I really worked hard. This is just another example. That's all I'm doing is providing examples here. I'm not saying I'm the best at this, not at all. But I would, how sometimes you can have these, if you're still working or even in a volunteer, you're meeting with people and there might be some conflict going on, how I would strive to just pause and put myself in a state of love and enter into the room with that state of love, to think and believe in love. And I honestly do believe that bringing that energy forward, it influences the interactions. So thinking and believing in love and beauty is a God quality. And the last one that I'm choosing to just emphasize in this little chat is thinking and believing in oneness. And as part of that, the unlimited possibilities in the macro level of oneness, right? Not doing things alone, and that you're not in this alone. I know that as part of my practice training, and many of the discussions, that I recall how, reflecting back in my life, how I shifted once I discovered science of mind, that I'm not in this alone. That I always thought previously doing things, getting things done, and trying to influence the community around me in positive manners, it's not just me. And that was a huge lift off my shoulders when I learned to believe, because it didn't happen overnight, right? But when I learned to believe the bigger oneness of things, that I am not alone. There is a power that's bigger than me that I can tap. And there is power not just in that spiritual bigness, but also in the oneness with others, right? So anyway, so remembering who we are in these different God qualities, whatever words you choose to use, or, and there's other God qualities. Those are the ones that I thought it would be good to just talk about. The other thing that is important is to be gentle with ourselves. And each one of you, you're this is all refresher for you. You're also advanced and sophisticated in the spiritual realm. I hope that you get one new thing this evening. But it's important to be gentle with ourselves and realize that it is a learning process. It is a learning process, right? And I love this. It's an ever expanding experience. This always, every moment, every day, ever expanding. That's a beautiful way of just thinking about this. And so it takes time. It does. It takes time. And I like to say, and I know I've said this before in practice training, that, I find myself, that I seem to be like at a certain level of plateau-ness of knowing and believing my divinity and the oneness, right? And then I'll see myself, something will happen, or maybe a demonstration or whatever, and then I'll rise up to another level, and then I'll stay put and maybe just deviate around that. But I do feel like when I reflect back since 2002, that I've been on this upward, ever expanding moment, or life, not moment, which is really nice. That's really nice. So anyway, sometimes I do have these things in my mind that continue to try to beat me back. Having said that, though, the knowing and the repeating of the prayer actually helps me continue up this way in a general sense when I think about it. I went online because of this thoughts, how you can get these repeated thoughts in your mind and they're hard to get out. I remember Deepak Chopra and others used to say that we would have like 60,000 different thoughts every day. I don't know if you remember that statistic, but I do. I always thought, wow, that was just hard for me to even imagine. And that of those 60,000 thoughts, the thinking was is that 95% of those thoughts are repetitive thoughts. You're thinking the same thing over and over and over. And I went through a period of time in my life where I thought I was unworthy. I was probably telling myself that you're worthless. Oh, you idiot. I probably was saying that stuff to myself almost all the time. Well, there's the latest study, and I found this in multiple sites. 2 years ago, a university in Canada, and now this seems to be the general feel, is that we really have more along the lines of 6,000 thoughts per day. That assumes we're sleeping for part of it, right? So that's like having a thought. Hold on just a minute. Let me look at my notes here. So that you have a little over 6 thoughts every minute, okay, which is about a little over 6,000 per day. And so that means then you have a new thought every 9 seconds. I don't know why I felt this was important to relay it to you, but I guess I was just intrigued by it. I wasn't able to find validation that the majority of those thoughts are repeated thoughts. I couldn't find a recent study that said, 95% of those thoughts are recurring thoughts. Anyway, my point is, if that's the way our brain works, and the majority of the thinking is a recurring theme, you obviously want the recurring theme to be one of those beautiful God qualities, the divinity of you. You don't want that recurring theme back at yourself to be the opposite of that. So I guess that's the point I was making. So that's number 1. So number 2 in this root and reboot. Oh, no, I had one other thing I wanted to share. So this is a story that was in the write-up, and I'm going to read this to you. And then I want to talk about how it really resonated with me. So in the Middle Ages, a citizen was arrested by one of the barons and shut up in a dungeon in the baron's castle. The citizen was taken down dark stairs, down by a ferocious looking jailer who carried a great key a foot long. You guys may know this, but I'm sharing it anyway. The door of the cell was opened and the citizen was thrust into a dark hole. The door was shut with a bang, and there he was. The citizen laid in the dark dungeon for 20 years, and each day the jailer came, opened the big door with a great creaking and groaning, and thrust a pitcher of water and a loaf of bread in, and closed the door again. After 20 years, the prisoner decided he could not stand it any longer. He wanted to die. He did not want to commit suicide, so he decided that when the jailer came the next day, he would attack him. The jailer would then kill him in self-defense, and thus his misery would end. He decided to examine the door carefully so as to be ready for the following day. Going over, he caught the handle and he turned it. And to his amazement, the door opened. Upon investigation, he found that there was no lock on the door, and there never had been. For 20 years, he had not been locked in except for in belief. That's unbelievable. And then I thought about, I was with my ex-husband for 16 years. And at the end of the relationship, like in the last year, I used to have this vision, and it was real to me. It was real. And this was before Science of Mind. I had this vision of a bird cage. I may have shared this in prac class, I don't recall. And then I was the bird in the bird cage, and I felt caged. I felt locked in. I felt trapped, and I felt constrained, and I felt confined, and I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand it. I remember I was consulting, and we had a place in Hawaii, and it's a 5-hour flight from LA to Hawaii. And I remember being on the plane, and I'd be crying. So anyway, I felt like this bird in this locked cage. And so I left, and I thought, I felt that Gary was my jailer, that he was the problem, and I left, and then I realized, took a long time, but once I discovered science of mind, I realized it was all my thinking. That I was the one that felt constrained and confined. I'm not saying that we didn't have challenges in our relationship, right? I'm not saying that. But I blamed him and felt he was the one confining me, and he wasn't. And I remember him actually even saying to me, Dianne, whatever you want to do, you can do. And yet here I thought I was that bird in that lock cage. And it was all my own thinking, just like this little story by Emmett Fox. That citizen that was for 20 years locked in, but it was his own belief. I was locked in, but it was largely my own belief. So anyway. All right. So the second thing of this root and reboot is, once you really know who you are, right? And then set the vision. Set the vision, or set the intention, or the mental equivalent. I mean, there's so many different little ways of describing it, of how you can move your thinking to either validate and verify and continue to believe in your God qualities, and or any other kind of whatever in the heck it is you want in life, right? And so this is funny. After all the training I've done, I went back to even look up the definition of mental equivalent. I can't believe. And I said, well, Dianne, you're going to be doing a little training session here. You got to make sure you got it right. But, and I liked it. And part of obviously being a teacher, and you all know this, I mean, you learn yourself, right? You help to teach yourself. So anyway, so the definition of a mental equivalent is your subjective idea of whatever your desired experience, whatever in the heck you want in life. And that it could be a greater or a different vision, right, than what you know right now. And then, obviously we're all very strong with our spiritual mind treatment and our prayers. And I'm not going to walk through that process that we use, to help set those intentions. I do want to just say 3 things about when we set those intentions, establish our mental equivalent. Just the 3 things I wanted to emphasize. I really liked actually what was in the written document that I leveraged, that instead of like, say you want a house, or say you just want a dog or something new, right? I love the reminder of, in your prayer, to focus on what it is that thing represents for you, the qualities, how you feel about it. And, like a home, if you're back to that example, you want the safety and the security and the comfort, a place to go to, and maybe to share with your family, to focus on that kind of thing when you articulate your prayer. Focus on what it means to you and how it makes you feel, versus just stating the noun. The other thing is that, and we all know this again, I love the spiritual mind treatment approach where it brings you in to a centering space where you acknowledge, spirit again, and then recognize your oneness with that spirit. And then that deepenings your knowing and your belief and the power of your prayer, which is just so beautiful to be able to articulate what it is that you want, this greater or different vision, and articulate it loudly with the belief and feeling and knowing that it is so. So this is just an acknowledgement and gentle reminder that when we do prayers, bringing that forward, that real genuine knowing forward when you do it. And then I like this thing too. And I in fact, I just said this last Monday night in class with Reverend Sue Ellen, that Dr. David Goldberg reminded us the other day in service that when you say a prayer, you may think you know that bigger, better vision and what it is, but you may not. You may not know. So in the prayer, to acknowledge and state that, your ask and your knowing is for whatever it is, or something even better. That's a beautiful thing to do. So anyway, so this is just a nice little reminder. So the third thing is, this is a beautiful, beautiful thing, the knowing that you are never alone. And I mentioned earlier how I remember reflecting back on my growth. I remember that. It was with Reverend Wanda here at the CSL in one of those 10 million classes it seemed like you had to take before practitioner class. I finally came to this realization that I'm not alone, that there's I can tap the bigger power of spirit in whatever it is that I'm dealing with, and then leverage all those God qualities, right? So the big message I wanted to make here about not being alone is I wanted to bucket it into two things. We're not alone from a human perspective, right? Look at the four of us here tonight. So there's this humanness where we're not alone. And then there's what I call the divineness of we're not alone. And the humanness is that I keep going back, the science of mind or the unity community. It's amazing the support. The support, like Joanne being, remember how we just kind of hung in there together with certain things, and I mean, being able to reach out, or like we would have lunch together and we can have this common knowing and belief system, and we're just not alone. We're just not alone, right? It's just lovely. Or the practice in the science of mind community of having prayer support, a practitioner. And the one thing I love, the weekly calls are just so lovely with the fellow practitioners, because the prayer work that's done for you is such a gracious gift, and you're not alone. Or even like Reverend Lynn, the recurring times that you reach out every month, we have this call. It's just nice, this human support system. I'm just acknowledging and reminding ourselves how lovely it is, right? It's very comforting to and honoring to have such a beautiful support system. And then the divine support, right? Of course, we know that, again, each one of us are so strong in our beingness. We all know the depth and the breadth of God, right? And there's that power in the universe, and that we can access that power. We're never alone. Never, ever alone. I love praying. I find that uh, for me, if I really, really want to get something, as long as it's not like 10 pages, right? I'm talking maybe the daily word, for example, or the Science of Mind daily reading. It really helps me to read it out loud because I tend to slow down and I hear it, and then it reverberates in my body. Maybe it's the voice, you feel it, right? Just reading out loud just helps me to have that deeper knowing that I'm not alone, that there is a divine spirit. And then I'm sure each one of you have your own different kind of practice. Many times when I'm seeking divine guidance, for me, what happens is typically it doesn't come immediately. You know what I mean? I allow it to kind of just, what's the word, meld or permeate when I'm done with my prayer. And almost invariably, especially if I allow it to go overnight, like I'll wake up and there it is, which is just really nice. Having said that, I think, Joanne, I remember one time you and I were talking about that, about when do you know when you're actually getting divine guidance, and it's like this odd thing coming at you just out of nowhere. It's just like, whoa, where'd that come from? Well, then that always is divine guidance, which is just lovely. So I really liked the message, the 3-pronged reminder to root yourself back in the knowing of who you are, right? Deepening your roots like a tree in the soil. And then I love the thinking of course, setting your intention for where you want to go, current vision, or even a bigger vision, or just simply a different vision. And I'm using the word vision not in the way Science of Mind does. Let me say, you're visualizing or setting the attention of where it is you want to go, or even how you want to feel. And then I really love this third reminder again, that we're not alone in different ways, right? Like I said, with the human way, or even the divine way. So I just kept talking. um, I want to pause here and see if there's anything that anybody wants to share. After we have that little talk, I did want to do a little brief just reflection. I have some questions, but in any event, let me pause and see if there's anything anybody would like to say. Okay. Okay. So I hope, I didn't say this at the beginning, but hopefully you have a little sheet of paper and maybe a pen or something like that in front of you. And what I'd like to do here is just ask a few questions. And if you want, you can answer them to yourself, or maybe not. I'm just offering it. It's kind of up to you. And I'm going to focus on 2 things of the 3 that I mentioned. Focus on the remembering who you are, and then focus on an intention or a realization. So I invite you to close your eyes if you so choose. So that, again, this first part is remembering who you are. So the question is, who am I? In other words, What are my strongest God qualities? What are my strongest God qualities? Your strongest God qualities. And if you want to write them down, okay, the second question. I was just pausing for a moment here. Okay, so the second question, is there a God quality I want to grow or expand? Become deeper in? Is there a God quality I want to grow or expand or become deeper in? A God quality that you want to expand, grow, become deeper in. Okay, so the last question in this section, what are the barriers to my growing this God quality? What are the barriers to my growing this God quality? Okay. I think I'm just going to leave it at that with those 3 questions. I don't know if anybody wants to share. You don't have to. If you want, more than welcome to.
I'll share for fun. I found the question hard. Which one of the God qualities do I think I am? And the only way I could think to answer it, I mean, they're all quite lofty and high, and the only way I could think to answer it was to say that I strive very hard to live in a loving way, to live accepting, to live in oneness, to be forgiving and understanding what forgiveness is, in reality, the way we teach it. And but even each one of these, I mean, I strive and do my best to live that way, but I'm human, so I don't know if I could really say that I am actually one of these qualities. I found that a difficult question to answer, and sometimes, and also because I don't see myself as other people see me, and I still see myself as I'm still working to love and accept myself because of my own upbringing. So it's not just me, but also trying to live that way out in the world. So there's different layers of what I think I am, or I'm striving to be these qualities. And I don't know that I would want to. It's not easy to pick one over another. What was the second question again?
The second one was, is there a God quality that you want to grow or expand?
I wrote the answers, but not the questions. I wrote abundance because I wish there was another word for it, because I still sometimes live in a limiting mind frame or lack, when I know theoretically and even by example, I've been shown and had things come to me that the abundance, that the universe is always going to supply and support, and things do show up. And I think if there was one I wanted to grow, it is that truth that it's always present. And I think that's that one.
Nice.
And what keeps me from growing that, or that one quality, or being a quality, and that made me laugh, and I had no problem thinking about this answer, and it's just old core beliefs and repetitive patterns,
right?
And even as you talked about, some of your examples, it's our limited belief that keeps us locked up when we don't know the doors, that there is no lock on the door, or there is no limitation about things. It's our own beliefs about stuff, and you think you've fixed something or changed something, and then something shows up again. There's all these layers of the onion. So that one my response to that one kind of made me laugh, because oh yeah, I know what that is.
Thank you for
Good questions. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Can certainly resonate with a lot of what you just said.
So can I pop in for a second?
Of course, please.
So I want to ask you a question, Lynn. Can you tell me those God qualities again that you said that you are? I know you had difficult.
Well, I don't know that I am. I'm striving to be loving, accepting, to be in oneness, and to be forgiving.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever felt loving? Have you ever felt forgiving? All those things.
Oh, yes.
Then you are. Then you are. It's simple as that. And if you have felt that, you are.
Thank you.
we all struggle to say good things about ourselves.
Yes, then that's the truth of that for sure.
If it's okay, I'll share something. The
Please.
number 2 question.
Back there.
Sure.
Don't eat my box.
So the number 2 question that what I wrote down is the intention for love expressed. To be a healer, and not to be a healer in a way that, you know, I'm laying on hands or anything like that. It's more of a, I have the intention of being a healer by just being in the presence with people. And I'm not even talking about that type of healing from Christ. I'm just talking that, you know, I'm in presence with other people, and just because I'm listening, or just because I may have said one little thing in a conversation that they picked up on and it helped them to move forward. That kind of healer is what I'm looking for. Just being with people and being present and having a presence for them.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. You know, and in fact, back to the words that CSL had, you know, the wording that I said that they provided for this week's talk. It's exactly what you're doing, where, you know, you're so in tune with yourself that then you can extend beyond yourself to others. And, you know, in your words, heal the rest of society. Be the light, right? And being that light, having the loving presence like Reverend Lynn, and just being, you know, that brings a lot of healing. And that's beautiful. That is.
And it's amazing because sometimes those words that you say, you have no clue that the words you say are going to have any effect on anybody. And, you know, if you're lucky, and maybe it's a God thing, but if you're lucky, someone will come back to you and say, you said such and such at some point, and that's changed my life. But most of the time we don't know. We do say something and it changes somebody's life and we don't have a clue. But my theory is, if you're still on this planet, there's something you're left to do. You have left to do. And it may be just as simple as saying to somebody, I love you, or whatever it might be. You're worthy. You can do this.
Totally agree.
Oh, complete. I mean, even just the beautiful sharing, Joanne, that you said earlier to Reverend Lynn, asking her the question, have you ever felt, you know, the loving? Have you ever felt like you're loving? Have you ever felt that? And then, well, then you are. I mean, that's, and one of Reverend Sue Ellen's, one of your phrases that have stuck with me in a profound manner, you know, God is all there is. It's all God. I mean, it's so obvious, but it's not, right? And that's a beautiful reminder. It really is. Is there anything else that anybody wants to share, or is that?
The strongest God quality came immediately. I had no problem, Lynn, with figuring it out. It came back just like that. Patience.
Wow.
I wrote that down too.
Patience.
Nice.
And my ability to teach, to get concepts across, is a strong quality that I have. And what I want to expand is possibility and openness, looking outside that box that we have a tendency to think in, because we get all these repeat thoughts. So as we think, as we're sitting here looking at the 4 screens, up there that we're seeing, you know, as we're doing that, things are going in and out of my brain, just like everybody else's. Well, man, she's got really great plants in her house. And you know what I'm saying? I'm thinking, looking at Diane's picture, and at least once every minute or so, those plants come in and out of my brain. It's repeating. I got it. I understand that. I see it. And I'm wondering what those little things are on your shelf, Joanne. And, you know, I mean, those again, repeat thoughts, and I glance at them and go, I wonder what those are. And then it goes off because I'm following the conversation, you know, and it's like the red flowers on her screen. I mean, I got it, but it comes over and over and over again, you know, with whatever it is. So I'm in agreement, probably 95% of whatever we see, think is repeat from something else. Just because the brain doesn't have anything else to say, it'll go, oh, wait, Swell, your background's all fuzzy. Wonder what that thing back there is in my own pic. You know, sorry. I get it. I get that part.
I think we all do, quite frankly. And it's nice, you know, the other thing, like we were talking about, saying a reading or a prayer or reading something out loud, it helps me to stop all of those other thoughts.
Right. Closing my eyes helps too.
That's true. Yeah.
Because then you get different thoughts, but not
yeah, that's
not
true.
these same ones over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's true. Well, thank you for participating in tonight's discussion. I really do. I really mean it. I really do appreciate the support, and I appreciate these opportunities that we do here in Inner Journey with these little talks. I was telling Reverend Lan when we talked yesterday or the day before that, you know, I remember when I did like my first talk, I think I was like 3 weeks out working on it. Work. I was stressing about it. And now I'm down to about a week out where I kind of think about it, but not like I was. So it's providing an avenue to gain confidence in your ability to pull together these little talks, and hopefully they're informative for people. So I appreciate the opportunity. I do. So, well, if there's not anything else, I'll pray us out.
Money.
Oh,
Don't forget the money.
As a
Because
practitioner,
we
you
have
gotta
hundreds of
ask
people
for it.
online who may be wanting
I always
to donate, you know.
Oh dear, I don't even have the phone number. Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
no.
So I truly did muck it up this time. Sorry.
405
Okay.
337
Yes.
9739.
Thank you, Reverend Sue Ellen. Yes.
And your word is?
Oh my goodness gracious. I can't even remember my word.
That's terrible. It's faith.
I think it's faith. Yes.
It is faith.
Yes, right. I know. That's hilarious. Well, I haven't done a talk in 3 months.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you. But in all seriousness, if you also choose to donate to Inner Journey, please do. Please feel free to do so. And the word for tonight is faith. Okay, thank you. So just a quick little benediction here. Invite you to close your eyes. And we give thanks. We give thanks for this opportunity, for this evening, this sharing, this loving sharing. And God, the absolute, the beautiful one, expressing through each of us in all of our thinking, our expressing, and our doing. And I know that as we go on beyond this session together and for the rest of this evening and into tomorrow next week and the subsequent days, that the God qualities that we are continue to expand and get bigger and deeper and brighter. The loving is deeper, the light is brighter, the patience is even more eloquent and bigger. And then I know that the qualities that we are growing and that we're cultivating, that they continue to expand and enrich our lives, not just our lives, but as Joanne said, the lives of everyone and people we touch, and that the lights, that who we are, the love, the divine element, the divine nature that each of us are, that divinity shines and deepens and broadens as we remember who we are and we express that who we are in all of our interactions, and we heal the world. And I know that for each of us. And we give thanks for this evening's session, and give thanks for God, give thanks for each other. And together we say, and so it is. Thank you.
And so on, if you want to see what's behind me,
They look cast iron.
they're bronze.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
These little girls. What I like about it is that she's blindfolded and she's played like your hide and seek or whatever,
Right.
Uh-huh.
And then this one here, I like this one because she's got one shoe on and one shoe off, and she's just kind of holding her other shoe.
Aw.
Standing on a
Oh.
chair or stool. And then the other one you could see is,
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
so I
Very-
like statuary, so
You
Those are
always
very nice.
satisfy your curiosity.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Now I know.
appreciate you sharing. You always find the most wonderful, unique things.
Yeah, all these statues I found on a flea market.
Right.
At different flea markets, but I love the flea market.
Well, wonderful.
Interesting shopping that way.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
I
Thank
said,
you.
suppose I
Thank
should
you.
stop
Good to see
recording.
ya.
Okay. All right. Love you.